A week. We had room, but we didn't have board, and we lived well. I had my Corvair with 100-some thousand miles on it, right? And so it was really great because I got to work on the book, the Arcology book, the famous investigation of architecture and ecology, which was a game changer. And that was the summer of 1968, spring and summer, sort of 8 months. Did some traveling, looked at the great California architecture. John Lautner became a friend. I knocked on his door. I've got a propensity. Good advice to any young architect is be curious, be respectful, be thoughtful, and learn how to knock on doors and just not invade. A knock on a door, a ring of a doorbell at a famous house, even though they've showed it a million times, you're not the person coming around the backyard trying to get a picture through the hedge. You've given them the respect of just not showing up, and it's led me on a journey that's been profound.
That's beautiful.
And the same way, people like you weren't bashful to call me a couple days ago, and didn't know who you were, but there was something in the tone of your little email that I got that, and I just, I think I have a client named Jonathan now, so Jonathan was in my mind, right? So I'm doing this little house, and it's Palms tree house. It's over this little grove of palm trees I was telling you about, and but right moment, right time. I'm sitting up in Portland, picked up the phone, and there you were, and here we are, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. So, but that was the background. Then I finished my degree, my BFA. Had really a good education. I continued to work, did a little construction work, worked for one of the guys that worked for Wenzler to finish while I was finishing school, and then I wrote to 9 famous architects. Not famous. They were famous, but they were first-class architects I'd want to work with. So I had 3 that I wanted to work with in Toronto, having a memory of that first road trip when I was 11, and Toronto being a great, great city. But the last winter was brutally cold. The film froze in my camera when I took a field trip up there, and snapped. It was that cold.
Man.
And I had fond memories of the desert and the optimism of a horizon. And Phoenix is about this optimism. You have people coming to a fairly surreal place, much more surreal back then with the desert vegetation, and the car hadn't dominated yet, and you could always wake up and see 360 degrees to an edge. And you've got the topography and this whole idea of an architecture of the desert where it's really important how a building anywhere, but particularly in this desert, this spare place, how it leaves the ground, how when you look at it coming out of the ground and its sparseness generally, and then how it kisses the sky. So those are sort of the bookends of any building that I use as a metric for my thinking. It's just thinking about that sort of issue. And if there's a poetry, there's an idea of how that whole connection or separation from earth and land and earth and building happens, and then looking right up at the top edge, and what do you feel as it kisses the sky? So that's a point of reference.
That's beautiful.
My sort of Germanic roots, if you will, fairly pragmatic at one level, probably more so than my own good sometimes. But I really believe that architecture is about people. It's about their programs. It's about sort of meeting those needs, and again, choreographing in a very functional and purposeful way. Budgets are always budgets. Central Library was done for less than $100 a square foot, which was unheard of.
Wow.
But it was the finest thing. And so I wrote these 9 letters. So it was the likes of Louis Kahn, it was Rochin Dinkaloo, it was Gunnar Birkerts, a student of Eero Saarinen, who it turns out had worked on the art museum in Milwaukee as a young man, as I was going to ask for a job working with him. And so I got 2 out of 3 jobs in Toronto. That was my real passion. I was from winter, I wasn't even thinking about it. There were 2 really good jobs. I had no money, so my 9-day trip, suddenly I shortened it, got on the bus, didn't even stay in a hotel. I got on the bus at the bus station, slept on the bus back to Detroit from Toronto, And I was a week early to coming to my last interview, which was going to be the closing of the loop. And I called Gunnar Birkerts' office and said, I'm a week early, but is Mr. Birkerts in any chance? So I went on the bus up the street with my little portfolio that I made, and not carrying a car at the time, but a little portfolio. And I got that job. And the Canadians were going to make me go for a traditional degree before I could get licensed. And so I decided to stay in the States, and Birkerts offered me a job. And I had a delightful 12 months with him. It was just exceptional. And he took me under his wing, and we stayed friends through life. And it was very, very interesting. But I was there. I did a bunch of background work while he was getting the project that he wanted me to work on, and I became his designer of the Contemporary Art Museum in Houston, Texas, and worked with his team. And it was he and I, basically, a small little museum building, which was cool. And then I sort of surprised him, because when we finished the design work on the building, he was already giving me the next design problem, right? And I said, Gunnar, I appreciate that very much, but what I'd really like you to do, and I'll be much more valuable to you on the next project, is I would like to work with Gary Desmond, the project architect now, and make working drawings of it. So I want to be on the working drawing team. I want to just draw toilet partitions and little stuff and detail the stairs just like you did for Saarinen. And he accepted that. And during the course of that, there was the big Soleri exhibit that I helped install that February, so we went to help install that. And the last winter was when the film broke in the camera, when I went back to Canada, still thinking Canada was it. And so the project that I was there for took a year to get to that point. We finished the working drawings, and I had a long exit interview because he couldn't quite believe that I was leaving, but he sort of understood totally. And we had a great chemistry together, and like I say, it became a lifelong friendship. So that's when I came back to the desert, because of the horizon, because of the opportunities I felt would be here. I still had 3 years to apprentice, 2.5 years to apprentice before I could take my exams. And I worked for 2 or 3 interesting firms here. Great learning, hands-on, everything experience. There was buildings. I did a whole bunch of schools with Michael Kemper Goodwin. I did the town hall in Paradise Valley, the original, before they sort of changed it a lot, talking about fragile buildings, but it was really a sweet little building when we finished. Tile roof. I still want to do a tile roof building. I mean, it sounds so unmodern, right? But I had this beautiful tile pyramid, and he had done the inverted pyramid for the city hall in Tempe. And when I came on board, he had failed with convincing them of 3 designs, and he was really annoyed. He was almost ready to give up the commission, but he was going on to become, he was trying to be governor, actually. He was very politically motivated, very interesting man, very dynamic, the son of a famous architect named Michael Goodwin, Kemper, that did a lot of the university buildings and all the schoolwork in there. So I got to do all these schools. I just had a great run with him for my last things. So, and then I passed my exam the first time around, and that was cool. And I had a couple patios. I had a little 1,000 square foot cabin with a $10,000 budget for an attorney down at the AG's office in Pinewood, Arizona. And it was going to be an owner-builder thing. And I typically, from my hands-on experience, would arrive with my nail apron and my hammer and my skill saw. And I would help my owner-builders build these first projects. And then the first project became the next project. And then you realize that somebody wasn't just going to hire you to do a public building. You had to go through a process. And I got my first branch library, which was the Mesquite Branch Library, in 1975, I think. I opened my own studio in 1974. The minute, just as if I had a regular script and done it the ordinary way. But I sort of made it happen,
made it happen.
Kept track of things and all that. So.
And it's nice.